Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here today, and I am here to continue getting up to date on movies that I needed to watch, new release movies for 2023. This is a movie that I really, really wanted to watch and review so much earlier this year. I was really, really looking forward to watching this movie. It's one of those movies, too, where it did not show at my local theaters. I wouldn't have been able to go anyway because of being ill at the time, but, that did not help things, And I find, too, that, the movies that I always most want to watch in theaters are always the ones that aren't showing because they have a limited release, or they're shown in select theaters, which is just really, really sad. And this movie, funnily enough, Blackberry, I feel like Blackberry is this movie itself is like an underdog movie of the year, about an underdog phone, because that phone just completely went by the wayside as soon as the iPhone got popular. And that's what's funny about this movie, is that it's kind of become the same in terms of people do talk about this movie sometimes, and they say it's really good, I love this movie, but there's not many people talking about it at all. And I feel like it's weird that it's become kind of similar to what the BlackBerry phone was, because I remembered, I think one person in the family had a BlackBerry, because I didn't have a phone until I was 18, and I didn't even want one either. I was just happy using an iPad at home or using a laptop. I did not want to have a phone at all. So, and I remembered thinking that it was pretty queer, because it looked like the trendy device that you could have. Just something about it, the square shape and the physical keys and how clunky they were, and the only thing that I guess I liked about it was that little that circle thing, that the mouse thing. I thought that was pretty cool, and I guess the name was okay, but we kind of thought the name was queer, because it's why is it a BlackBerry? I don't know, maybe because of the keys are kind of like the little bumps on a BlackBerry. I don't really know, but we were not really big BlackBerry fans. But maybe they were good, because I never had one, so I couldn't say, oh, that was a great phone, or, oh, that wasn't very good. So, I know that there are some people who did like them, though. And, this movie, the funny thing is, well, I've said that now already, that there's something funny about the movie. But another funny thing is, this movie is kind of like The Big Short of 2023, in a way. It has that same kind of feeling that The Big Short had. But the problem is the pacing and the structure of the story. Because the first half of the movie is really, really good. And it really makes you get excited for the second half, to see, the downfall of BlackBerry and, just the failure. But then the second half, it's a little bit rushed. It's a little bit haphazardly paced. And I really felt like this movie was missing a narrator. That's part of why The Big Short was so good, is because you had the narration. You had that to guide you through the movie. And I really felt that with this movie, it would have been kind of interesting if maybe they had, a different narrator for each act of the movie. Maybe for the first act, you would have, Mike, the main guy, the nerdy guy, the head of Blackberry, well, one of the heads of Blackberry. You could have had him narrate the first act, and then you could have had Jim, what was his name, like Ballsack? Jim Ballsack. You could have had him narrate the second act of the movie, and then the third act of the movie you could have had Doug, the friend of Mike, narrate it. And I felt like maybe that could have made it better, because there were some parts in the last act of the movie where I kind of felt disconnected to what was going on, and I kind of felt disconnected to the characters. It's a little bit by design though, because like, we'll get into it. It's complicated. It's a story, you know. So it starts off, and I won't go. Should I? I don't know. What's really good about the first half is the dynamic duo of this inventor guy, this nerdy guy, and then you have the business guy. And what's really cool about it is that even though, you know, this movie is very, very over the top too, like The Big Short was, you really like what each of these two people add to each other into this business. Like you like how the nerdy guy, he's really good at inventing, he's really good at engineering and making these phones, but he's not good at business at all. And then you have the business guy, he's really good at business, but he's not good at like creating things. He doesn't even watch Star Wars or play video games. You know, he doesn't know anything about the movie situation. You know, like he's just completely like business Joe. You know, like there's a part in the movie where he's sitting at home watching football, and it's like, yeah, that's exactly right. And so that's what I really liked about that first half, was like seeing them work together and seeing how they were able to add something to the business that the other one didn't bring, because that's a really good message to life. You know, like when you're doing a project and you think you can do it all alone, you know, it's really not a good idea. It's a better idea to get like other people who can help you, who know how to do things that you don't know how to do, because that's what they're good at. And so then they can do what they're really good at doing, you can do what you're really good at doing, and you can create a good team together. And that's another thing, is that in the first half of the movie, the Blackberry business, they're called, what were they called? Like Released in Motion or something? I don't know. It was like this group of like party guys, and they really liked working at this company and just doing all this like hard work and for hours and hours and hours, because they partied a lot and they really enjoyed working there, and they enjoyed like feeling like, I don't know, like I guess like they're having a constant party, like they're just having fun all the time. And the having fun really helped them do the business part, which I found to be a lot of the case too, personally. You know, like it's so much better to do something when you're having fun and you're enjoying doing it than to do something that you really don't like doing, because then that impacts the work. And then in the second half, though, the company, when they start to go downhill, they become a lot more business-oriented, and they become a lot less party-centric and a lot less fun. And it really seems like the classic story of, like, the people who had good intentions getting into a journey that eventually it turns them into different people, and then they have a bad business, and then the business fails, and that's that. The problem is that the first half was really good, but then the second half, I kind of felt disconnected from the main character. The main character of Mike. In the second half, like really, his hair changes, and his whole attitude and personality changes, and it's almost to the point of where I don't like him at all anymore. Like in the first half of the movie, he was very likable and very relatable. You know, there's the scene at the beginning where they're supposed to be at a business meeting selling this phone idea. And there's this hissing in the room because of these really crappy Chinese-made machines. And he spends like 10 years like just fixing the fucking thing so that there won't be any hissing noise because it bothers him. Like, he's a very detail-oriented person, which is also very relatable. But then later on in the movie, he still kind of has that, I guess, because he does something like that later on in the movie. I won't spoil it unless, I don't know, people are really concerned with that as a spoiler, which I don't know. You never know with people. Like, there's some people who are really sensitive about spoilers, even if they're like really insignificant details. But in the second half of the movie, I just don't like him at all. And I just feel like, he gets really full of himself and he gets really like just the typical thing. But the difference is with this movie is that usually in movies, in crappy movies, cliche movies that I'm sick of, that they always have the part in the movie where they're at their lowest point, and then they have like a 10-minute period of sadness where they're moping around and they're sad. They're like, wah, wah, wah. But then they have the part at the end where they redeem themselves and they get back up on their feet. And that doesn't happen in this movie, because this movie, it's about Blackberry. And, Blackberry never got back on its feet. It disappeared. So it's kind of different, And it's also funny, too, because one of the people in this movie was actually in The Office Season 5, and I thought it was funny seeing him in this movie because I've literally never seen him in anything else in the history of movies and television shows. Like, this movie is the only movie I've ever seen that's had him in it. And so I thought it was kind of funny that, I'm watching Office Season 5 and at the same time watching this movie. I thought that was pretty interesting. So, yeah, and I really felt bad, too, for the people in this movie, the characters other than the main character in the second half. And so that was another issue, is that, like, even though I do like to watch movies about characters who are bad or characters who they make bad choices, like in Killers of the Flower Moon, especially, I mean, there's some really bad people in that movie. Really, really nasty, unlikable, evil people who are horrible, like just do unspeakably evil things. But in that movie, at least, I don't know, like, just in this movie, it's like you just don't feel connected to them in that second half. And the disconnect kind of disconnects you from the story. Because on the one hand, you have this inventor guy, and he's just completely become like a corporate nerd where he's just not fun anymore, and he's just not like a good guy anymore. I mean, he's going against his core beliefs. He's going against his morals. If you do that in a business, then you're going to fail because you're fucking trash. And on the other hand, you have this fake bald guy, and he's just like a huge, like, hot-headed businessman, like just a character, to say the least, like a cartoon character. And in the second half of this movie, he literally spends the entire second half trying to buy a hockey team, and he's got some strange priorities, this character. And like in the second half of the movie, like in the first half, he's always at the office, he's always like going back and forth and all around. But in the second half, he literally like hardly ever shows up to the office again because he's just so busy buying a hockey team. And so So overall, though, I enjoyed this movie. I thought that it was just as good as I thought it was going to be, though. Like, I knew that this movie was going to be good, at least for me, because I love true story movies. Those are some of my favorite types of movies. And I love the actors in this movie, like, especially the guy playing Mike, because I saw him in Fanboys, and, that is one of my all-time favorite comedies. It's about back when Star Wars was good, and it's a very, very funny, heartwarming movie, and he really did a good job in this movie, except in the second half, like, I kind of lost track of this character, because in the second half of the movie, he gets this strange haircut, and let's have a moment, too, because we got to talk about the hair in this movie, like, the main guy, he's got this premature gray hair, and it works because I think it is the real guy's hair and they just dyed it or something, or they have a really good wig. But in the second half, he has a terrible, terrible wig. And another thing is the fact that, like, in real life, I looked up, and the guy got fat. He got overweight. They didn't even attempt to do that for this character. And I felt like that was kind of strange, but, like, I really wanted some more personal stuff with that guy in the second half of the movie so that we could get into more of his mindset, because to me, it's just like he lost himself, and that's that. But, like, I really wanted to know more about what was going on in his mindset, which is very important when you have a true story movie, because with a fictional movie, that's your decision, what's going on in their mindset. But if it's a true story movie, it should probably be accurate to real life, where, like, the real guy, he's been interviewed or whatever, and you know all that stuff for a fact. And then so that's that wig he wears in the second half of the movie. It's really, really bad looking. Like, it looks terrible, and it kind of reminds me of, like, a school play. Like people in a school play wearing their phony old age makeup and their wigs and their outrageous costumes. Like, it reminded me of a school play. And then the bald guy, Jimmy Ballsack. Wow. This is the worst bald cap I have ever seen. And, like, it didn't hit me at first, but then there's this part where, like, the lighting hits his bald head just perfectly, and you can see the seam. You can see where the cap ends with the skin, and it's like, it looks really, really bad. And I swear, like, you could really, like, play a fun drinking game where, like, every time you notice that he's wearing a bald cap, you take a shot or you take a sip of a drink, any drink. Just don't kill yourself watching this movie, because that would be an even sadder story of, like, the person who died from alcohol poisoning while watching the Blackberry movie. Like, oh, that would be the worst way to go. Put that on your tombstone too. Put he or she died watching Blackberry. Like, oh. So anyways, I don't know if there's much else to say about the movie. I did say something in my Letterboxd review that I really think is appropriate for this film. It wanted to be The Big Short of 2023, but it ended up being more of a Billionaire Boys Club. Now, if you guys don't know, Billionaire Boys Club was a good movie. Kind of. It was a good effort, and it had good intentions behind it, just like this movie did. But it's pretty underrated because nobody ever talks about Billionaire Boys Club. And the reason for that is because that came out right after Kevin Spacey had the the allegations against him. So like it made like what, like $23 at the box office or something. And so I really feel like, just like with that movie, that you should give this movie a chance if you're into true story movies, because it is a good movie. Like, it's a good rainy day movie. Like, if you created a list of just like random movies that you just have to get to at some point on a rainy day, and you can just pick randomly, this would really be like at the top of the list, because it's not a perfect movie. It's not a bad movie. It is a good movie, though. It is a very good movie. It has a lot of laughs in it. It has a lot of good lines in it, too. The ending is really good. The ending is very... the ending actually kind of saved the movie for me, because at the ending, I felt the connection that I was missing in the whole second half of the movie. Like, because at the ending, the character is more like the character was in the first half, and so that kind of brings it back for me. It does end kind of abruptly too. Like, there's not really any like emotional, like, because I guess there really wouldn't be. I guess, I don't know. But both these characters, usually, like, let's say Wolf of Wall Street. Well, no, actually not that one, because he doesn't really get punished at all. Well, I mean, but you do see in that movie, you see him hitting rock bottom, and you see that whole thing play out. But in this movie, there's some scenes at the end where things happen, but it doesn't really... I think it did need a little bit more at the end. So I really feel like it had a strong first half and a kind of good second half, but not as good as the first half. So in terms of food, I would say that this movie is like a sandwich. It is like a... It is like a turkey club sandwich. Half of one. The other half... you decided to get adventurous, and you got a pizza sandwich. So it's like a sandwich that has like pepperoni and cheese and tomato sauce. And although it's pretty good, you just wish that you had gotten the turkey club, like the full turkey club instead, because the turkey club was a lot better. But still very, very good. I'd highly recommend this movie. Glad that I watched it. I was always going to watch it. Like, there was no doubt in my mind whether or not I was going to watch this movie. So yeah, please like this video and comment, and then please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest movie reviews about movies with bad bald caps. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.